Sometimes, when everything goes wrong, life becomes silent, so silent that you can finally hear the truth. There was a man who felt as if the world had turned against him all at once. His plans collapsed, the people he trusted drifted away, and every morning felt heavier than the last. He didn't fail in one big moment. He failed slowly, in small ways, until hope itself felt tired. One evening, sitting alone in a dim room, he realized something painful yet powerful. Life was not asking him to give up, it was asking him to pause. For the first time, he stopped fighting the moment and simply breathed. In that stillness, a quiet thought appeared in his mind. This pain is not here to break you, it is here to teach you. He didn't feel strong, he didn't feel ready, but he understood one important truth. This was not the end of his story, it was the beginning of a deeper one. And that reminder, simple but life-changing, stayed with him as the night slowly turned into morning. The next morning, nothing had changed, and yet everything felt different. The problems were still there, the uncertainty was still heavy, but something inside him had shifted. He realized that for a long time he had been carrying weights that were never meant to be his alone. Expectations, regrets, fear of disappointing others, fear of failing again. As he walked through his day, he noticed how often his mind replayed the same question: why is this happening to me? And suddenly, another question quietly replaced it. What if this is shaping me instead of punishing me? That thought didn't remove the pain, but it gave it meaning. He understood that life doesn't break people randomly, it strips them down to reveal who they truly are. Every loss was removing something false. Every delay was teaching patience. Every closed door was redirecting him towards something unseen. For the first time in a long while, he stopped blaming himself for not being where he thought he should be. He accepted where he was, and that acceptance felt lighter than resistance. He didn't need all the answers yet. He only needed the courage to keep moving forward, one honest step at a time. And that was enough for today. Hope didn't return like a sudden miracle. It came quietly, almost unnoticed. It appeared in small moments, a deep breath taken instead of a sigh, a calm reaction where anger used to live, a decision to stand up even when motivation was absent. He realized that real hope is not loud or dramatic. It is subtle, patient, and persistent. There were still moments when doubt whispered, "You're falling behind." But now another voice answered, "You are growing where no one can see." He began to understand that strength isn't always about pushing harder. Sometimes it's about staying gentle with yourself while everything feels unstable. Progress was happening, even if it couldn't be measured yet. That day, he made a quiet promise to himself. He would stop judging his journey by someone else's timeline. His path was different, and that didn't make it wrong. Hope, he realized, doesn't need certainty to exist. It only needs a reason to stay. And for the first time in a long while, hope stayed. There were days when he wanted to rush the healing, to skip the uncertainty and arrive directly at clarity. But life didn't move that way. It asked him to walk slowly, even when the path was unclear. He noticed something important. The more he tried to control everything, the more anxious he became. But when he focused on doing what he could, just for that day, his mind felt calmer. He began to trust small actions over big promises. Each step forward, no matter how small, was building something invisible but strong. Discipline was quietly replacing chaos. Patience was growing where frustration once lived. He wasn't fixing his entire life, he was learning how to live it again. He understood that the process was not delaying his success, it was preparing him for it. The lessons he was learning now would protect him later, when things finally started to work. Trusting the process didn't mean giving up control completely. It meant choosing faith over fear again and again. And slowly, without realizing it, he was becoming someone stronger than the person who first broke. No one applauded his effort. No one noticed the inner battles he was winning. And that was okay. He learned that some of the most powerful transformations happen in silence. While the world saw nothing changing, he was learning how to stay calm under pressure, how to stand firm without anger, how to keep going without reassurance. There were nights when doubt returned, reminding him of everything that could still go wrong. But now, doubt no longer controlled his decisions. He acknowledged it, then chose to move forward anyway. He realized that strength isn't always loud confidence. Often, it's quiet endurance. It's choosing consistency when motivation disappears. It's staying committed even when the results are invisible. In that silence, he was building something real, character. And one day, when the time was right, the world would see what had been growing all along. As he grew stronger, he noticed something else. Some things in his life were holding him back without him realizing it. Old habits, old fears, old versions of himself that no longer fit who he was becoming. Letting go wasn't easy. Those patterns were familiar, even when they were painful, but he understood that growth requires release. You cannot move forward while clinging to what keeps you small. He stopped replaying past mistakes in his mind, not because they didn't matter, but because they had already taught him what he needed to know. Holding on to guilt only delayed healing. Each time he chose to release something, an unhealthy attachment, a negative thought, a limiting belief, he felt lighter. Not perfect, but freer. He learned a simple truth. Sometimes life doesn't remove things from you as punishment. It removes them to make space. And in that space, something better was preparing to arrive. One day, he noticed a quiet change in the way he spoke to the world. He stopped explaining himself to everyone, stopped defending his choices, stopped seeking approval to feel valid. Not because he had become cold, but because he had become clear. He realized that people will misunderstand you no matter what you do. Explaining yourself endlessly only drains your energy and weakens your focus. The right people don't need explanations. They feel your sincerity through your actions. This shift brought peace. His words became fewer, but more intentional. His energy was no longer scattered, it was protected. For the first time, he chose self-respect over being liked. And in doing so, he felt a deep sense of freedom. Freedom to grow without permission. Freedom to move forward without noise. That day, he didn't lose people. He found himself. For a long time, he believed that choosing himself meant abandoning others, that caring for his own needs was selfish. But life had taught him otherwise. He learned that you cannot pour from an empty cup. Every time he ignored his limits, he lost a piece of himself. And every time he honored them, he gained strength. Choosing himself didn't mean closing his heart. It meant protecting it. He began to say no without anger and yes without fear. He understood that boundaries are not walls, they are doors that decide what is allowed in. At first, guilt tried to pull him back, but he didn't let it control him. He reminded himself that self-respect is not cruelty and rest is not weakness. By choosing himself, he wasn't becoming less kind. He was becoming whole. And a whole person has more to give to the right people at the right time. There came a moment when he looked back, not with regret, but with clarity. He saw the nights he thought he wouldn't survive, the mornings he showed up despite the pain, the days he kept going with no guarantee it would work. And suddenly, he understood something powerful. He had already done hard things, things he once believed were impossible. Strength didn't arrive after the storm, it was built inside the storm. He realized that resilience isn't about never breaking, it's about learning how to rebuild yourself without losing your soul. Every challenge had carved wisdom into him. Every setback had sharpened his perspective. He stopped underestimating himself. If he could survive what nearly destroyed him, he could face whatever came next. And for the first time, confidence didn't come from hope, it came from proof. For a long time, he waited for a sign, for a rescue, for life to suddenly become easier. Then one day, a simple truth hit him. No one was coming to save him, and that wasn't a curse, it was freedom. He understood that waiting had kept him stuck. Action, even imperfect action, was the door forward. He didn't need permission, he didn't need ideal conditions, he only needed to start. So he did. Small steps, quiet decisions, consistent effort. He stopped asking when things would change and started changing how he showed up. Responsibility replaced excuses. Commitment replaced hesitation. That day, he didn't become fearless, he became responsible for his life. And that choice changed everything. He learned something important about motivation. It comes and goes. Some days it shows up strong, other days it disappears without warning. But discipline stayed. On the days he didn't feel inspired, he still showed up. Not perfectly, not energetically, but honestly. He understood that consistency matters more than intensity. Small actions repeated daily were shaping a future he couldn't yet see. He stopped relying on feelings to guide his progress. Instead, he built simple routines that carried him forward when emotions were unstable. Discipline became an act of self-respect. There were moments when quitting felt easier, but he reminded himself why he started, not for comfort, but for growth. Motivation started the journey. Discipline sustained it. And slowly, his life began to reflect the effort he put in, even on the hardest days. As his life slowly took a new shape, he noticed something unexpected. Peace no longer depended on outcomes. Before, he was always waiting to succeed, waiting to heal, waiting for everything to make sense. But now, he understood that life only happens in the present moment. The future was built here, not somewhere else. He stopped rushing through his days just to arrive at a better one. He learned to be fully present even when things were imperfect. Peace wasn't the absence of problems, it was the ability to remain grounded while facing them. He accepted that not everything needed to be fixed immediately. Some things needed time, others needed trust. By focusing on what was within his control today, he freed himself from the anxiety of tomorrow. And in that presence, he discovered something powerful. When you stop fighting the moment starts supporting you. He didn't suddenly have everything he wanted, but he began to clearly see what he already had. Gratitude quietly shifted his perspective. Instead of focusing on what was missing, he noticed what was still standing: his strength, his lessons, his ability to begin again. Even the pain had given him clarity. He understood that gratitude is not denial of hardship. It is the decision to not let hardship define your entire vision. When he practiced gratitude, his mind became calmer and his heart lighter. Small things started to matter again. A quiet morning, a moment of progress, the fact that he was still moving forward. Gratitude turned survival into meaning. He realized something simple yet powerful. When you change what you focus on, you change how life feels. And life slowly began to feel possible again. Looking back, everything began to make sense. The delays, the losses, the moments of loneliness. They were not signs of failure. They were moments of preparation. Life had been shaping him quietly, removing what was weak and strengthening what mattered. He understood now that some breakdowns are necessary before breakthroughs. Some endings exist only to protect you from the wrong future. What once felt like rejection was often redirection. He stopped asking, "Why me?" and started saying, "Thank you for what this taught me." The struggle didn't ruin him, it refined him. And with that understanding, he no longer feared the road ahead because he trusted who he had become. When everything goes wrong, remember this: you are not lost, you are being rebuilt. Life will test you in silence before it rewards you in public. The nights that almost broke you were shaping the strength you now carry. Every step you took in the dark was preparing you to walk with clarity. You didn't survive because it was easy. You survived because you refused to give up on yourself. Remember this when the road feels heavy. You are stronger than you think, wiser than before, and closer than you realize. This chapter of your life is not a punishment. It is a transformation. And no matter how hard things seem right now, trust this truth: your story is still unfolding, and the best part has not yet been written.